Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Franchise Interviews. For over 6 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 6 years now, we've been asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, and I'm the president of Franchise Interviews. We have a great show today. This week is the annual International Franchise Expo in New York City, and many refer to this event as the Super Bowl of franchising. And today you're going to get to hear our interview with the founder of FranchiseWorks.com, Terry Corkery, who gives his advice to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise, as well as some great tips on attending the franchise shows. And that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we got a great show.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities, or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 6 years now, we've been asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, and I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. This week is the annual International Franchise Expo in New York City, and it's at the Jacob Javits Center, and many refer to this event as the Super Bowl of franchising. And today we're going to hear our interview with founder of the FranchiseWorks.com, Terry Corkery, who gives some great advice on what you should do in attending the show. So why don't we go right into our interview with Terry.
.com, and Terry's going to give prospective franchisees some advice on what to look for when buying a franchise. Terry, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Marty?
Good, Terry. Joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, who's also the president of Diamond Financial Services of New Jersey, and I know you wanted to say hi to Terry, Don.
Yeah, hey, Terry, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I wanted to ask you, what's the name of that impressive franchise financing company you have on your website? I was on the site there.
You know, people ask me all the time, and for some reason I get stumped on. Is it franchise funding?
Okay.
Diamond Financial?
Okay.
They're probably two of the best companies I know.
Okay, excellent. We'll give you a little extra time today.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah,
like I've told you, seriously, I've been advertising on Terry's website for a couple of years now, and I've been on, I've been on several of the websites, and Terry's site, franchiseworks.com, I definitely feel is the best for quality results and service.
Absolutely.
You've done a real good job with the website, Terry, and
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And the next week we'll be seeing you at the franchise show, the IFE, and later on we'll be giving people again information on the show. And you're going to be working hard at the show, right?
I always do, Don.
Okay.
I would say, Terry, I was joking around with Don. I said, when you go to the shows, go hungry, because there's just so much food there. I walked out of there last year with a stomach ache, and I think I gained 5 pounds. So.
Well, that's always a good show to go to if you're looking to grab some pizza or maybe a sandwich as you're walking around. They even have dessert with ice cream. And
I would agree with that. I know.
Everybody's showing off their stuff. Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely. Yeah, Terry. Again, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. Congratulate you on the success of FranchiseWorks.com. I've been following you guys for a long time. I remember when you guys first came out in 1999. So congratulations on all that success. I think it's fantastic.
Thanks.
How did you get involved in franchising, Terry? I know it was an interesting story.
Well, I guess it goes back to 1987. I don't want to make the story too long. But really, my background was I was an auto mechanic.
Okay.
By trade. And the company I was working for at the time was really getting involved in franchising. It was an Indian company. And at that point, I thought, I don't know if I want to continue to make money, fixing cars and doing those type of things and rebuilding engines. So they got involved in franchising, and I really looked at that as an opportunity for me to move ahead. So I got involved really in the sales and the background of the franchise itself as it was developing. And, that was my head start into the franchising industry. But prior to that, I really didn't know anything about it.
Interesting. So that's okay. Why did you start FranchiseWorks.com, Terry?
Well, that was, again, working for that company. I went to work in sales and development for a couple other different companies. And I'll go back in 95, I think, is even before that, I was getting calls for people to advertise when I was working for these companies in sales, and they said, do you want to advertise on our website?
Right.
And I thought to myself, internet? Who the heck has the internet? This is before AOL.
Exactly. Right.
AOL really kind of brought the internet, I think, to the masses of people.
I would agree.
Everyone at home look at that. So at that point, that's really when I saw the change and said, this is interesting. I should really start getting involved in the advertising end of the franchise industry, because from the print media standpoint, the leads were kind of going down a little bit as the internet grew.
Right, absolutely.
So by the time it was 99, even though print media was still very good, it was declining as far as people researching on the internet, people looking at information. I thought, what a great opportunity.
Right. That's something. And it's probably the number one source now, Terry, I suspect, right? As far as prospective franchisees looking for a franchise, would you say most of them go on the internet?
Yes. There's been a study done, and it's actually for the last 5 or 6 years has been the number one source for people looking, even for franchisors, getting leads.
Right, absolutely.
The internet has been so.
Yeah, you really came in at a good time, Terry.
You really did,
The numbers just keep going up with the amount of people going online for any type of service, but especially if you're looking for a franchise business. I think you're positioned real well right now.
I think the market's continuing to grow. I mean, obviously, people aren't giving up the internet. They like the fact that they can do it as far as searching and researching and getting information at their leisure.
Exactly.
So it's a great resource.
I would agree with that. Absolutely.
And, Terry, you and I have spoken about this. There's so many new sites that are that have come up, offering the same type of service to you. It must be a pretty good feeling knowing that you were right there in the beginning and you're so much more well-known. I mean, there's starting to be so many, and I personally wouldn't consider any of them. I want someone that has that track record, a pretty well-known site that has the volume is so important.
Yeah, I agree with you, Don. And again, we spoke about that previously. But sometimes the technology changes so fast, I don't have time to pat myself on the back. And I don't mean that to be sarcastic. When I started, I guess there was probably about, and I forget at the time, maybe 15 different companies.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. Yeah.
Now there's probably about 125 different companies that are trying to be lead sources. So
that's amazing.
But the key really is in my industry is to generate that targeted traffic of people that are actually looking to buy a business, and that's what I feel is the key.
Right, absolutely.
So obviously, Terry, you're an entrepreneur, but what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Let's start, like, say, at the franchise show coming up next week. You've done so many of the shows. What advice would you give to someone going to the show?
I would say to someone, definitely attend the shows.
Okay.
It really gives you an opportunity to look at the scope firsthand of the franchise industry. I mean, you can see everything from a home-based business, whether it's in the handyman service, all the way up to a full-blown, sandwich and sub shop.
Right.
So I mean, everything is there at your disposal. There's seminars that you can attend.
Right.
That are free. There's some that you pay for, but primarily it's really there to get in touch, get information, meet the people that you're going to see. It's nothing like the Internet. The Internet's great to do your research on, but you still have to get past that.
Exactly.
You still have to meet the individuals, the companies, and get a good feel, and that's a great opportunity to do it.
Absolutely. Would you say they should go prepared to, Terry? A lot of times, like I've noticed at the shows, because I've done shows in the past as well, a lot of people will come up to your booth and they'll say, so what do you guys do? Should an aspiring or prospective franchisee go in prepared? Like, I know a lot of times you can actually get a list of who's going to be at the show. Like, say it's going to be 300 franchises. Do you suggest you kind of do research first before you actually approach the booth? Or because I suspect you get that too. A lot of people come up to your booth and they say, well, what do you guys do? What do you guys do? And you spend your 3 days answering that question. I know you probably go through that as well, Don.
All the time. But, the best thing that you can do for the franchise company, quite frankly, is go in there prepared. And what I mean by that is, I'll give my site a plug for a second. There's a trade show listing. I mean, you can get a free registration to go to the show on our site and so forth. But more importantly, you can get the listing of the franchisors that are going to be there.
Right.
It kind of gives you an idea of what to expect. You're not going in there looking for a company that's not going to be there and have to settle for something else. At least you know ahead of time what's going to be there, who's going to be there. And kind of you can do research on the Internet prior to going. And you could get yourself together a number of questions to say, let me ask this. It's great as a franchisor. I'll put on my sales hat when I work for the franchise company to have someone coming up and talking to me and having an intelligent conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point, Terry. Be prepared, have questions, really know what your investment range is, too. I mean, maybe, check on your, say, credit score. And
exactly.
And like in the business I'm in, kind of have a general idea of, if you have to get a business loan, about what size you think you can get. But, your site can be great for a great preparer, I guess, initially. If they have a certain industry in mind, they can go to a site like yours and look at a few franchises and then notice, hey, these guys are going to be at the show and kind of have a game plan going to the show. Not that everybody has to do that, but for a serious entrepreneur, I mean, I think it's you're offering some real nice advice.
And it's great, Don, because they can go there and get information on the franchisors and see guys like yourself there and talk about financing if need be or whatever has to be done. I mean, I know you work with some of the companies that are probably advertising and have displays at the show yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a great resource. Everything is there for you to take advantage of.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a good response.
So, Terry, you've been in the business a while. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen over the last decade in franchising in general?
The biggest changes in franchising?
Just not on the Internet. I mean,
that's where I'm a little bit slighted because I'm jilted now. I'm on the other end of it, being that the proliferation of information.
Right.
It's really there for anyone to take advantage of. In years past, you had to go, prior to that, you really had to go to what the salespersons were speaking to you about.
Right.
Now it's you can do a background check. You can get information. You could do all the research that you want to do in looking at the industry. Also, the growth of franchising. I know last year alone there was probably over 500 new franchise companies that came to the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't that amazing?
That,
Marty and I have talked about that a number of times on previous shows. It's been a pretty common theme with us, right, Marty? And,
oh, absolutely. I mean, the number of systems, Terry. I mean, it's been incredible. I think it was back in 2005. I think that was a record year. I think there was like 900 new, or was it 500 new concepts? I think it was.
Last year, I think it was 500. I could be mistaken.
It was. Okay, yeah. I'm not sure. I probably got my data mixed up, but
the year prior to that was very close. I mean, there's several hundred new franchisors coming every year.
And there's over 80 industries, and some of those new franchises are existing franchise kind of diversifying, but still it's a new service. It's it's a new franchise. You have to count it, and it's endless. Every week, Terry, you probably come across this too. We've talked. I'm always seeing for the first time the name of a franchise I've never heard before.
Yes.
And I'm like, get me their information. Never heard of this. Are they new? Most of the time they are on the newer side, but it's incredible how
every industry is almost covered with franchising.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
If you think about it and think of an industry, I would probably tell you 99% of the chances there's someone in there that has a business that's franchised in that industry.
It's incredible.
But it is amazing, Don. Again, you handle it too as well as myself. That we'll field calls from companies. I think, gee, I never heard of that. And then they tell you the industry they're in, and you think, wow, that's really interesting. I mean,
and then you see one particular industry that all of a sudden a couple successful franchises and a niche type service, and all of a sudden there's a explosion of more franchises in that segment.
Yep. Well, that's one of the changes I've seen again over the last decade. I don't even know if I want to go back that far. Is probably the home-based industry.
Right.
It seems that there's been a lot of home-based franchise companies come up in the last few years.
Absolutely.
Which is
better for investors, because usually those are smaller investment sizes, so people can get into franchising with a successful franchise model at a lower price. Not
exactly.
Invest in the $300,000 to $500,000 or more size franchise, so there's opportunities for everybody across the board.
It hits the range of everybody. So if you have a $10,000 investment, typically there's probably something in that industry that's franchised, as well as the $2 million investment.
Absolutely.
Why don't you sell your site, Terry, and get back into the auto mechanic business?
Well, I had an offer yesterday, but I didn't want to be the mechanic.
Oh, geez. Terry, what are some of the characteristics of successful entrepreneurs, would you say?
Well, obviously, I think drive is probably one of the key features for someone looking to get in business. Obviously, you have to have that drive. You have to have, if you're married, you have to have the support from your spouse. Because
we've heard that before, too, from guests on the show.
So, I mean, it's really the drive. I mean, you have to, even though franchising, you have to follow direction, which is what makes it successful, but you still have to have that drive. I call it like a frantrepreneur. You still have to be, you have to be an entrepreneur at heart, but you still have to be able to follow that system.
Absolutely.
You have to be motivated and just realize you're not automatically going to make money. You follow the system most likely, but you're going to have to work hard.
Exactly. And if you're looking for a change in the system, you really have to prove it. I mean, most franchisors are not looking for the franchisee to change, although some of the changes do come from the franchisees that make the business successful.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. We were reading a story, it was a couple weeks ago, Terry. I don't know if you remember this, Don. We were talking about the filet of fish, the guy that started the filet of fish for McDonald's. He was competing against Ray Kroc. I guess it was with the Hula Burger, which was like a pineapple, and the filet of fish was attributed to a franchisee, actually.
A lot of those things from the McDonald's were attributed by
franchisees.
The franchisees.
Absolutely. That's something.
That was an interesting story.
That was a great story.
Around the time of Lent, and they wanted to go with a non-meat type of food, and that person happened to put together a real nice fish sandwich that became a staple at McDonald's. So.
Sure has.
Right, absolutely. Terry, what do you like most about franchising?
Well, I think it gives everyone a level playing field. And what I mean by that, whether you have and this may sound silly, a ninth grade education, if you went through college or high school or a doctor, it doesn't make a difference. Everyone has that same opportunity to be successful. Because to me, the key features in the franchise, in purchasing a franchise, would be, number one, the system. Obviously, there has to be a system in place. Number two, the support that's in place for you to be successful. And obviously, as the franchise grows, the name recognition. I mean, they're probably the three key features you're buying a franchise for. And I think it gives everyone that opportunity to utilize those.
Just find that structure and successful business model. And
so again, I think it fits everyone. It doesn't discriminate. Anyone can do it and be successful in the franchise system.
Absolutely.
So you're doing the show, Terry. I mean, I'm sure you get all kinds of questions. Do people talk to you and ask you questions about, what should I, as far as my due diligence and investigation to a franchise? Do you get that sometimes?
Yeah, I do. And I try to direct them. If someone is really not sure of the type of business they're looking at, obviously I direct them to the site without question. But also involved with that, and you asked earlier about another thing that's changed in franchising is probably the consultant event, or the consultants, or the brokers.
Right.
It used to be called brokers, now they're consultants. But I'll direct someone to a consultant or a consulting company, because they're looking at information that doesn't cost them a nickel. They can talk to the guys and really kind of, I don't want to say a litmus test, but speak to them and present opportunities that maybe they thought they weren't looking at the time.
Right.
So it kind of opens their eyes to other industries.
Right. The consultant is interesting because someone can go to them if they have a specific industry in mind.
But even if they don't, yeah.
Right.
Even if they don't.
Exactly.
I mean, typically, if you know what you want to do and you're saying, gee, let me get into a business and here's what I want to do, and I'm looking and, you kind of contact those companies. But if you say to yourself, I want to get in business, but I don't know what's hot, I don't know what I want to do with a specific industry, you'll go to a consultant and they can kind of see, what strengths you can utilize and maybe open your eyes to a different industry that you'll be successful in.
Right, absolutely.
Talked earlier, there's so much information out there and get to be pretty confusing. There's so much due diligence, and so here we're kind of plugging consultants, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely important.
They have their place. I mean, I think it's good. Anytime you can get information before you go in business is great. I mean, obviously, after you're all said and done, I think you should contact an attorney, obviously with a franchising background, to go over the UFOC and that information, because obviously you need to get the right guidance.
Absolutely, yeah. We had a whole show dedicated to that too, Terry. And the importance of hiring a franchise attorney. And
don't believe everything you're told, obviously.
Absolutely.
But it gives you the opportunity to look at that information and talk with the attorneys. That again, I suggest always speaking with an attorney who has a background in franchising, because they know the laws, they know what can be changed or what can't be changed. So it's a great asset.
Absolutely.
Do we have time for another question, Marty?
Yeah, two more, and then I guess we'll end the segment. And
You're done with me, huh? No, I'm teasing.
You can stay the rest of the show, Terry. You just hang out with us if you like.
You've been in franchising for a while, like we've just discussed, Terry. I'm sure you have a couple interesting things that's happened to you since you started FranchiseWorks.com. Come on, give us a good story.
Well, I don't necessarily know there's stories in particular, but I will say this. I was, and this sounds silly, I was young getting into franchising, and I thought, guys are in sales, they're trying to sell people things. But I was really surprised that the people in the industry really do care. I mean, in a sense of there is a sincere effort to make franchisees successful. There's a lot of good people out there. I've met a tremendous amount of good franchisors that really do care about the franchisees being successful. It's not a matter of just selling a franchise. It really is
absolutely
something that they want to make their franchise successful, and obviously the franchisee is just as successful as they are. So I mean,
treating them more as family and looking at long term rather than just trying to bring anybody into the system to get that franchise fee.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. It wasn't a matter of just getting that franchise fee. It was a sincere desire to be successful and have the franchisees being successful. I mean, that's probably the most interesting thing that I found out in the years in franchising.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also have a lot of respect for the franchisors who, just don't go out and try to just
make
build up the numbers real quick.
Don, they were entrepreneurs themselves at one time.
Right.
They were somebody that started something because they started a business and decided to build on that business and franchise it because there was a niche in the market. I mean, so they worked real hard to get it to that point. And you always have to keep that in the back of your mind.
Absolutely.
Right, there's no pressure. It's take all the time you need to investigate, and if it's a match on both sides, then there's a strong chance that marriage is going to last.
And you have to be comfortable.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's a disaster if a franchisor gets involved with the wrong franchisee too, Terry, because it ends up in that UFOC document, which cannot be a good thing.
Which can be a headache.
Exactly.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah, Terry, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Obviously, is going to, is it FranchiseWorks.com?
FranchiseWorks.com, obviously.
Okay.
all the information. There's a contact form in there if you need to speak to me. There's the phone number there that if you need to speak to us. I don't want to plug my numbers.
No, actually, you can give your number too, Terry. That's fine. Yeah. Or what we could do? We'll also put a link. It should be up there on the show page.
Okay.
That can actually link to franchiseworks.com. And again, it's a fantastic website. Again,
there's information on franchisors, obviously franchise companies, information about financing from guys like yourself, Don, as well as trade show information. If you can't make the show in Washington, there's other shows that.
Need a business loan? Talk to Diamond Financial Services, the experts in franchise financing nationwide. Whether you're looking to start a franchise, acquire an existing franchise, or expand your territory through opening new locations, Diamond Financial stands by your side start to finish. From pre-qualification to packaging and presenting your application to securing a financial commitment and through the loan closing process, Diamond Financial is there. While you're waiting, thousands of others are making their financial dreams come true. Don't wait any longer. Pre-qualify now by completing a confidential, no-obligation financial analysis. Let's face it, traditional banks just aren't in the business of financing small business. At Diamond Financial, we specialize in securing franchise loans from $100,000 to $3 million and equipment leasing up to $150,000. Let us help you get started. Go to www.franchisefunding.net or call 877-508-2274. That's franchisefunding.net, 877-508-2274.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 6 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. And today's podcast is being brought to you by Franchise Times Magazine. Franchise Times is the only magazine that targets both franchisors and multi-unit franchisees and is a must-read for anyone looking to buy a franchise. You know, Don and I have been hosting Franchise Interviews now over 4 years and over 200 shows, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on our show. The nice thing about hosting Franchise Interviews is we're frequently asked to be guests on radio shows and magazine interviews on the topics of entrepreneurship and franchising. And today you're going to get to hear an interview that we did 6 months ago on CBS Radio with Lynn Johnson on her motivational talk show. And of course the topic was entrepreneurship and franchising. And here's what we said. I think you guys will enjoy it.
Hey, did you ever think about buying a franchise? Do you think that now is the worst time to buy one? Or you're not sure whether anyone would loan you money to purchase a franchise? How does the whole thing work? Well, let's find out. We have an expert on the line, Marty McDermott.
Hi, Coach Lynn. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's always great to talk to you. I always feel like it's a World Talk reunion, right? We get together.
I know. We started out, guys, a very long time ago. I think we're some of the only people left, aren't we?
I know. It's amazing, isn't it? But it's just, and it seems like yesterday that we started, Lynn. You know?
It really does.
It's just incredible. But it's the success that you've had is just wonderful to watch, though. I mean, it's just incredible.
Thank you so much. And yours has been pretty fantastic. You know, Marty, just over the break, when I announced that you were going to be here talking about franchises, I got a tweet from Alice and a lot of other people, but I selected Alice's tweet.
Oh, good.
Because she says that her family has owned the same bagel shop for over 35 years.
Wow.
But now they're going to have to close because the business has slowed and their debts are too high. She wonders if setting up her own franchises could save their business. So, Marty, I know you're an expert, and you host that wonderful show called Franchise Interviews on Blog Talk Radio.
That's right.
Are franchises for everyone?
Oh, great question, Lynn. It's a deep question, and definitely not. In fact, you know what? If I can quote my friend Dr. John P. Hayes, franchising is not for everyone, and it's probably not for most people. And when I say that, the first time I heard that phrase, Lynn, I was a little confused because I said, if franchising isn't for everyone and it's not for most people, then who could it be for? It's but franchising is really for someone who knows how to follow rules, follow systems. They're not a true entrepreneur. When I say that, sometimes franchisees get upset because they say, what are you talking about? I consider myself an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is really the person that actually creates the franchise opportunity. And, when you're talking about franchisors or entrepreneurs, they're really, and you know this, Lynn, they're very creative people.
Mm-hmm.
They can look at something.
I could never follow rules, Marty.
Exactly, and they could just create something out of anything, Franchisees, and it was funny because I was in Virginia, George Mason University, on Friday talking about this topic. And one of the topics I was talking about was military being good candidates for franchises because they know how to follow a system, So you really have to know how to follow a system, like to follow rules. And if you can't do that, then it's probably not for you, Lynn. So, it's always a word of caution before getting into franchising.
Now, I know that you say that there are two key factors that should be present before you consider buying a franchise. What are those factors?
Well, it depends. There's a lot of different things. I mean, one is, what do you want the franchise to do for you, Lynn? For example, I'll give you an example. I like Dunkin' Donuts. I frequent Dunkin' Donuts probably several times a week. And as much as I like Dunkin' Donuts and the coffee and the donuts, I wouldn't be a good franchisee for that type of system because when you buy into a Dunkin' Donuts, you're working some pretty hefty hours.
True.
So one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, what's important to you? You're really taking a deep assessment. And for me, my family is most important to me. So if I wasn't, with my family or my son, like if he has a baseball game one day or whatever it is, I'm going to get very frustrated, even if I'm making a lot of money. So you want to ask yourself, what do you want this franchise to do for you? And what kind of system is the best match for you? There's so many choices out there today, Lynn. I mean, there's like 80 different industries franchising. Yeah, a lot of people, when they just think of franchising, they just think of food. But it's actually up to about 80 different industries. There's accounting franchises, there's advertising franchises, there's shoe repair franchises, you name it. It seems like they have it, So you really have to ask yourself, what's the best match for you?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of research. And, of course, you come down to the financials, too. And, McDonald's, as successful as it is, it's almost a home run every single time you have a McDonald's franchise. I can't afford one, So the financial aspects are always a big factor as well. I think to go even deeper, I think you need family support. I think that's important as well, if you're married, I think you have to have that support from your husband or your wife before you get into an opportunity as well, because you're taking them along for the ride with you.
I love that you said that, Marty.
Absolutely.
Do you know what you said? You said you need the support from your husband, which would infer that a woman could easily go in and buy a franchise. I love that.
Absolutely. Well, you can see the influence my wife has on me, too, I guess. She's got me trained, Liz, she's a fan of your show, by the way, too, so you can tell I listen, but absolutely. But it's so true. And, speaking of women, Lynn, I mean, they really do make fantastic entrepreneurs, it's amazing. I think for the first time, I teach for Kaplan University.
Yes.
And we have, in colleges, for the first time, there's more women in college today than there are men.
And they're older as well.
They're older, so what does that say to you, is there's a lot of exciting trends that are taking place here in the United States, so.
Now, I wanted to ask you about this because I know that they just announced that even Ritz Camera is going to be closing many, many, many of their stores, and I'm kind of heartbroken about that because I'm an amateur professional photographer.
Right.
But my question is, so how do you know if the franchise that you're interested in is even going to be around in the next 5 years?
Wow, it's a great question, and nothing is ever 100% certain. I will say this, that not all franchises are created equal, Lynn. What you can do is, look at the company's track record for one. One of the things that you can look at is their franchise disclosure documents, and look at the history of the company. Some companies that just started franchising, they haven't really been around very long, so you're kind of taking a chance in a way. And you can look at how many franchisees they have and things like that. I think there's certain franchises that are always going to be around. I think McDonald's will always be here. They have like 33,000 units. Subway has about 33,000 units. So those ones are pretty safe. It's almost a home run every single time. So there is always that element of risk involved, even when you are buying into a franchise system. Of course, you can look at things like the market and things like that and kind of make your own assessments, but
so, Marty, with all that you know, because I have 1 minute left, and I definitely want them to come and listen to you, because I love your show on Blog Talk Radio.
Thanks so much, Lynn.
And I want them to check out your work. It's very, very important. Are franchises still a viable option, even with this economic downturn?
Most definitely. I think, Lynn, and this is going to sound a little weird, is, one of the interesting effects of the recession I see now is some of the best offers in franchising.
Interesting.
And I've been doing this 10 years now. I'll give you a couple quick examples. Some franchisers, what they're doing is they're reducing or dropping a franchise fee for their new franchisees. Now, that's pretty significant because a franchise fee usually goes for about $30,000, $40,000. So they're waiving that. In some cases, there's 2-for-1 deals where if you buy one franchise, they'll drop the franchise fee for the second one.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so it's really, and that's the effect that I've noticed from the recession is really some incredible deals. Even the landlords right now, and you've noticed there's a lot of great locations available right now.
Yes.
I think, you want to get those locations because, a great location can really overcome bad marketing, and there's going to be a lot of people kicking themselves next year. They're going to say, I should have got into that opportunity last year when they waived the franchise fee, when I could have got this killer location in this particular spot. And, landlords are sometimes more willing to give a great lease to a franchise as opposed to, let's say, Tony Subs, who's just like a regular guy.
So somewhere Tony's saying, hey!
Exactly. Tony's upset. But, so they're really getting some incredible deals right now. I think that this is the most exciting time to get into franchising. But again, to quote you, Linda, franchising isn't for everyone. It's not for most people. You do have to really do your homework. It's not guaranteed every single time. And, not all franchises are really created equal. There are some that are better than others.
Well, Marty, it's a pleasure to hear your voice and talk to you again.
It's a pleasure to hear your
and
voice, too.
Where
I
can
love you.
my...
I think you're great.
Thank you. I love you, too.
Thanks, Coach Lynn.
Where can my people hear you, do business with you, and all those wonderful things?
Absolutely. Go to franchiseinterviews.com. You can hear I think we're up to 160 shows, Lynn, recorded up to this point. Yeah, so it really, when I say that number, it just really, it tickles my spine because I didn't think that there was going to be a market for this or we'd find like a listening base for it. But, every single month we have more listeners just like you, So I haven't quite achieved your success yet, but someday.
Well, thank you so much, Marty. And go check him out. Franchise Interviews on Blog Talk Radio, my dear old friend from World Talk Radio.
Thanks
Marty
so much, Lynn. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, prosper.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Here.